Welcome to students of second PUC. This is session 3 of chapter 2 electrostatic potentials and capacitance. Before moving on to topics of session 3, we'll just recall some of the things that we had learnt in session 2. So what are the things that we had learnt? First thing, we had derived the potential due to a point charge, which is 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into q by r. The potential here is inversely proportional to the distance from a arbitrary charge. Also, V is positive whenever the charge is greater than 0 or when charge is positive. V is negative when charge is less than 0 or when the charge is negative. Then we had learnt the potential due to a system of charges. It is been given by the law of superposition or superposition principle. So the charge at a point due to a system of charges is going to be the algebraic sum of potential due to individual charges. Using the principle of superposition, we have derived the charge at a point due to a dipole. The expression is 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into p cos theta by r square, where p is the dipole moment and theta the angle between dipole moment and radius vector. Here we see that the potential due to a dipole is inversely proportional to r square, whereas the potential due to a point charge is inversely proportional to r. So we are at the end we had compared the potential due to a point charge and potential due to a dipole. So if you draw a graph of 1 by r and 1 by r square versus r, you will see the graph of 1 by r is less steeper than the graph of 1 by r square. The same graph can also be used to compare potential and electric field. So these are the things that we had learned in the previous class. We will proceed to topics of session 3. In many of our practical applications, we come across continuous charge distribution. That is, charge along some line or charge on a surface or charge in a volume. How are we going to find potential at a point due to continuous charge distribution? The common formula is potential at a given point P is going to be 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught integration of dq by r, which means we have some point P. Just integrate the effect of every small portion of the charge element at P. In case of a linear charge arrangement, the charge dq is given by lambda into delta L, where lambda is called as linear charge density. In case of a plane sheet, dq is given by sigma into ds, where sigma is surface charge density. In case of charge in a volume, dq is given by rho into dv, where rho is space or volume charge density. The common formula for continuous charge distribution is 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught integration dq by r. Integrate the potential at a point due to every small element. We will move on further. When it comes to continuous charge distribution, we have a spherical shell. When a spherical shell is being charged, the charge distributes uniformly all over the surface. In such a case, the potential at any point outside the sphere is given by 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into q by r. The effect will be such that all the charge is considered to be concentrated at the center of the sphere. Similarly, for a point on the surface, if there is a point on the surface of the sphere, now the potential is given by 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into q by capital R, where R is the radius. What about a point inside the shell? For a point inside the shell, the potential is going to be the same as the one on the surface. The potential on the surface of the sphere or on the surface of the shell or inside the shell is going to be the same 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into Q by R. If you remember in your chapter 1, we got the electric field inside the shell as 0, but it is not the same in case of a potential. The potential inside a charged spherical shell is not going to be 0, it is going to be the same as on the surface 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into Q by R. The field may be 0, but not the potential. Let us know what are equipotential surfaces. The equipotential surface is defined as an equipotential surface is a surface with a constant value of potential at all points on the surface. We will take an example to understand it better. Take a point charge. As you know, electric field is radiated from it spherically in all directions. So if you draw concentric spheres, each sphere represents one equipotential surface. From the center to any point, if you consider any point on the sphere, the distance is going to be the same. Therefore, the potential on any point of the surface 1 is going to be the same, and I can write it as potential V1. Similarly, if you move further, you may get one more surface whose radius is some R2 from point O. Then I will get second potential surface, equipotential surface. I can take the potential there as V2. Similarly, I can keep on drawing concentric spheres, and every sphere represents a equipotential surface. So on any point on the sphere, the potential is going to be the same, but it differs from one sphere to another sphere. Similarly, I can take uniform electric field. For a uniform electric field, the equipotential surfaces would appear like squares. As you move from one point to another, you will get square potential surfaces. We have some properties related to equipotential surface, of which the first one is the field at every point of an equipotential surface is going to be perpendicular to the surface. Second thing, no work is done to move a charge from one point to another point of an equipotential surface. So the work done in moving a charge on the equipotential surface is going to be 0. So no work is going to be done to move a charge from one point of an equipotential surface to another point of the same surface. And the third one, two equipotential surfaces do not intersect. You cannot get two equipotential surfaces intersecting at a point. That's not possible. These are the properties for equipotential surfaces. In the exam, they may ask you for 1 marks or 2 marks to draw or to represent equipotential surface in case of a point charge. If they ask you to draw equipotential surface in case of a point charge, what will you do? Draw a point charge at some point, draw concentric spheres. Every sphere represents one equipotential surface. This line represents the electric field. They ask you to draw equipotential surface for a uniform electric field. Then you will draw parallel squares and represent the field which are normal to the squares. Similarly, they can also ask you to draw equipotential surface in case of two like charges, equal like charges, or two equal unlike charges. Let us also see how are they going to be. In case of two like charges, the equipotential surface is going to look in this manner. As you move towards each other, the equipotential surfaces nears each other. Okay, they bulge inwards. In case of two unlike charges or in case of a dipole, the equipotential surfaces bulge outwards. As you move away outwards from the charges, they extend outwards. This is how you need to draw. You get the same thing, you can see them in your NCERT textbooks. Finally, we will end the session by deriving a relation between electric field and electric potential. So let us start. First, we will take some arbitrary charge plus Q. The electric field is emitted from it. Somewhere at a distance, let us take two equipotential surfaces, surface A and then surface B. The potential at A, I will take it as VA, let it be equal to V. The potential at B, let it be V plus delta V. As you move towards the charge, the potential increases. So there is a small distance between A and B. So as you move towards B, the potential increases and let it be V plus dV. From the definition of potential difference, the work done in moving a charge, unit positive charge, from the surface A to surface B against the field is given by VB minus VA is going to be equal to E dot dl. As I have taken a unit positive charge, so this is going to be E dot dl. What is the potential at B? It is V plus delta V. Potential at A minus V. E dot dl. The field is in the direction of OA while I am moving the charge from A to B. So this is going to be E dl cos 180 degree. Plus V and minus V, they get cancelled. What remains is delta V is equal to minus E dl. Cos 180 is minus 1. So rearrange. If you rearrange, we will get E is equal to minus delta V by delta L. So this is the relation between electric field and electric potential. The electric field at a point is the negative of the potential gradient at that point. In NCERT, it has been concluded at the end that the field is in the direction of the steepest decrease in potential. It also been mentioned the magnitude is given by the change in magnitude of potential per unit displacement normal to the equipotential surface at that point. Here the magnitude of electric field is given by the change in potential per unit displacement in the direction opposite to the field. That's it for today. Thank you.